Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my top 5 movie trilogies of all time. I'm sure this will create many an argument amongst many people. Why isn't Back to the Future on there? Why isn't The Godfather on there? Yes, giving the game away on those two trilogies. I think they're great trilogies. I really do. I think there's not, well, Godfather Part 3 maybe, but other than that, there's not a bad film amongst those two trilogies. But they're not on my list. So yeah, this is my top 5 trilogies. Now, what makes a great trilogy? Well, for me, it's having a beginning, a middle and an end to an overarching story which has either a central character or central characters who complete a story arc. So there may be maybe we're going to get to it. There is a trilogy on this list that is part, in fact there's a couple when I think about it. There's more than one trilogy on this list that is part of a bigger franchise, shall we say. But the reason it appears on this list as a trilogy is because the main story or the main character or characters that are being followed in that story has a finality by that third part. So whether any more sequels come after it, it remains a trilogy. So yeah, anyway, you'll understand when I get there. So let's get on with it. Like I say, this is a very subjective list. I shouldn't have to say this up front. This is my list, not your list. So don't throw hate, okay? It's just my opinion, that's all. But these are my top 5. So the first trilogy on my list is the Alien trilogy. That's Alien, Aliens and Alien 3. Now again, this fits that bracket of what I was just talking about, which is that, you know, a lot of people will say, well, what about Alien Resurrection? And they might forgive me for leaving out Alien Covenant and Prometheus because they're prequels and they're not kind of in the same story. But, you know, you've got Ripley in Alien Resurrection. But it's not Ripley, is it? It's not Ripley. No, Ripley died at the end of Alien 3. And the character we get in Alien Resurrection is a clone about 6 clones down the line. It's not Ripley, it's a different character. That her story is done with by the end of this film. You can get to the end of Alien 3 and if you want you can leave it there. It is capped off, it is done, it is finished. It is at number 5 rather than higher up the list precisely because Alien 3 itself is the weak link in the trilogy. It's still a good film for me. I don't think it's quite as bad as a lot of people make out, but it is definitely much weaker than those first 2 films, the strongest of which for me personally is the second one. I still love Ridley Scott's original. Just pacing wise, I'm all about Cameron's movie, the way it's just, we get into it and it's non-stop action from start to finish. But yeah, it's a great set of movies that really deals with motherhood. Of all things in a horror movie, you know, through this character of Ripley. Yeah, it really does bring a female perspective into the horror / sci-fi genre, and play with that, delve into that, and it has a strong central female character, a few female characters actually, certainly once we get into Aliens, without relying on sex. Nudity and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, great stuff. You know, that predominantly comes from the fact that Ripley was originally written as a male character, and Ridley Scott just said, whatever, female, there you go. So yeah, good call on his part. But Alien Trilogy would be perfect if not for the problems of that third film, which does somewhat let it down. Yeah. Not least of which because they killed off 2 really great characters at the start without even getting to see them be killed off. And yeah, after all the investment we put in from Aliens to just have them wiped out like that, bad move, bad move. At number 4 is M. Night Shyamalan's East Rail 177 trilogy. Yep, that's the name he's given to it because of obvious reasons if you've seen the film. This trilogy does encompass Unbreakable, Split and Glass. Glass is a film that a lot of critics really down on, but I wasn't on board with what the critics were saying. I loved the third part. A lot of critics were sniffy about Unbreakable when that first hit, but over the years it has become something of a cult hit. Split, brilliant film, definitely thanks to James McAvoy's performance, but also Anya Taylor-Joy, who I think from this trilogy is the unsung hero, the unsung gem. I'm not saying she steals it or anything. I think that still clearly belongs to McAvoy, but I do like her character. I do like what they do with it. I do like her journey. So yeah, all the characters in this, all the side characters, each of the three main characters, David Dunn, Kevin Wendell Crumb, and Elijah Price, are just really strong, you know, really strong set of characters. Each film deals with one of these characters and brings out themes around them, you know, all to do with broken people and what having a purpose does for such people, you know, and yeah, it's just a really great trilogy. It's M. Night Shyamalan in his wheelhouse, clearly in a place where he feels comfortable and clearly in a place where he does his best work. For me, I rate all of these equally, really. I gave Glass 4-star review on my first watch, but I did that with Unbreakable and I did that with Split, and they've gone up in my estimation. So yeah, since watching them, just not a weak link for me across the three films. Just a really great trilogy. At number 3, we've got the recent Planet of the Apes trilogy. So that encompasses Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes. Now, obviously, this is part of a much bigger franchise. There have been more movies in this franchise. This is kind of considered as a prequel, but sort of not as well. It really does stand on its own, and that's, again, in large part because it follows a central character throughout, you know, and we get a certain sense of finality about that character by the time we get to the end of the third film. And yeah, it is. It's just the journey of Caesar and how he navigates the world of man and brings his own people, the apes, into the promised land, so to speak. You know, those final shots at the end of War for the Planet of the Apes, it's almost like, yeah, Moses just kind of, and Joshua kind of leading people into the promised land. So, yeah, although Caesar never actually gets to live there. Very much like Moses, in fact. So yeah, it's a really great trilogy. Again, not a single weak link. The thing about this series is that, I mean, I've never been a big fan of those original movies. I can't say I've seen them all, I won't lie, but that original movie, Planet of the Apes, I wasn't sold on. You know, I'm a big sci-fi fan, but I do find that original Planet of the Apes to be quite overrated. Rise for the Planet of the Apes, or Rise of the Planet of the Apes, when that first came out, I saw the trailers for it, and I didn't like the look of it. I thought, this is going to be bad, this is going to be a mess. It's mostly actors that aren't exactly A-grade at the time that it came out. You know, you had the dude from Harry Potter, you had James Franco. He wasn't exactly, you know, he wasn't doing his best work so much around this time. I don't think he quite had the level of kudos that he has currently. It was just a bit like, this could be like straight to DVD kind of stuff, but with a slightly bigger budget. Yeah, I wasn't really on board, especially after Tim Burton's film as well. This was kind of trying to revive the franchise after that. It's like, yeah, not really buying it. So I didn't go to the cinema to see it. And then it came out and all the reviews started coming in and they were all like 4-star reviews and this is awesome. It's unbelievable that they pulled this off. And I was a bit, really? Is it that good? I waited until it came to DVD and I watched it and I was gutted that I didn't go and see it in the cinema, because it's a phenomenal film. Just the way it takes this ape character and makes him almost more human than the humans, but not at the expense of the human characters. Like I say, there's this James Franco character who is a really good guy in it. He's just trying to do the best for his father and for this ape, Caesar. So yeah, it's just really great film. And then when Dawn came out, I was like, if it's as good as Rise, I'll be happy. I can't see it happening, to be honest. But then, yeah, I watched Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and all of a sudden, this franchise became one of my favourite franchises of all time. And that was as big a surprise to me as anybody. And then I was just so looking forward to War for the Planet of the Apes after that. And the fact that it had the same director as Dawn, just, yeah, got me really excited. And then when I finally saw that film, I was just like, man alive, what a trilogy. Please, please, please leave it there. Leave it there. If you're gonna do any more films in this franchise, go way off into the future. Stay away from these characters. Don't bring back any characters from this trilogy. Keep it as it is, as a solid trilogy that can remain untouched if you have to do any more films. But yeah, staggering pieces of work, all three of them. So we get to number 2, which is, for me, Lord of the Rings. This is a perfect trilogy. It's probably the single most complete trilogy, in the sense that you take one film away from this trilogy and the others don't work at all, you know. And I know a lot of people would argue the original Star Wars trilogy, best trilogy of all time, oh, best films of all time. You know, people have such a love for those Star Wars movies. I was never quite as big on them as most people. But at the end of the day, if Star Wars, if Episode 4, that original movie, hadn't have been the runaway success that it was, and they never did a sequel, if we never got Empire and all those other films, it just remained that one standalone film, it would still work. The fans of that film would still be able to own that film and have a sense of completion, that it ended well, and that's it, it's done. You don't need those sequels. It's only once you did the follow-up films that it then became this trilogy, you know? You get to the end of Fellowship of the Ring, you can't do that. You know, any other trilogy on this list, you can. You can watch the first film. Even my number 1 choice, my favourite trilogy of all time, you know, if you ended at the first film, you never got the sequels, wouldn't matter so much in the grand scheme of being a fan of that original film, because you'd still have a solid ending. Cannot do that with Lord of the Rings. So in that sense, it is the quintessential trilogy. You know, you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you take one away, and the first film just doesn't work. You know, you take Two Towers, Return of the King away, you'd be left with this film that'd be such a disappointment because you never got to complete that journey. You know, so in that sense, the fullest sense of the word, it is a trilogy. And it's a great one. You know, what Peter Jackson did in creating Middle-earth, just bringing it to the screen, getting this book, which, you know, until it came out, most people just said, this is unfilmable. How are you going to do this? The only way you could possibly do this is in animation, and that's been done, and it wasn't particularly successful. But yeah, he just brings it to the screen, live action, and everything works on every level. The characters are just stunning, great, really well-rounded. You sympathise with them. You feel heartbroken when they split up. Yeah, just everything about it. The central relationship between Samwise Gamgee and Frodo, just really great relationship. The villains in it, all the different array of villains, from the orcs, the Uruk-hai, Saruman, Sauron, the Nazgul. It's just, yeah, so many brilliant kind of creations. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a really immersive world. Lord of the Rings, definitely deserving of a number 2. And if anybody put it on their number 1 spot, I could totally understand why. You know, I'd have no reservations with people doing that. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, number 2. We get to my number 1 choice, which I'm sure is pretty obvious to anyone who actually knows me and watches my channel or has watched my channel for a long time. It's the Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah, Christopher Nolan, my favourite director. Batman, my favourite fictional character. This film trilogy is perfect. You know, a lot of people are a bit sniffy about Dark Knight Rises. They throw a lot of criticisms at it that I personally, I find either unfounded or you can explain away, or quite frankly, maybe just because I'm a Batman and Nolan fan, I just don't care. I love it. I love Dark Knight Rises. I think the villains throughout these three films are really brilliantly chosen by Nolan and Goya for bringing out the different themes that we want to bring out through each film. You know, I've done a video on this before on my channel, so I won't go into it in great detail, but you got that first film dealing with fear, you got the second film dealing with this theme of chaos, and then you've got the third film dealing with the theme of pain. And you know, you put those villains, Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul, around fear, the Joker obviously for chaos, and Bane dealing with this idea of pain. So yeah, just amazing. Just the idea of, you know, of a director who knows exactly what they're doing. You know, when they're crafting a story from the ground up, and just know where to go with it. You know, they know which direction to move it in order to create perfection, and that's for me what this trilogy is. It's perfection. Just the Joker, obviously, Heath Ledger, absolutely knockout performance. I can just watch it again and again and again, never gets old. Watching The Dark Knight on IMAX for the first time 2 weeks before it was released. It was a staff showing when I worked at Odeon, and it was the greatest cinema experience of my life. I still remember it to this day. I never had such a great experience in the cinema. You know, everyone was talking before the film came on, and when it came on, everyone just shut up. They laughed when it was appropriate to do so because of some of the stuff the Joker does, but other than that, you could hear a pin drop, you know, the way it should be, because people were just engrossed in what was going on, and they were hooked, you know, right from the start. Yeah, brilliantly shot. Nolan using those IMAX cameras, just, yeah, filling out the screen. It's what cinema is all about, you know, story, character, plot, spectacle, great characters. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Love it. I could gush over it all day. I have done many times on my channel, which is why I won't go any further. But for me, the Dark Knight trilogy, my favourite set of films of all time. So obviously, it's going to be my favourite trilogy of all time. Yeah. There you go. That is my top 5 trilogies. But what about you? What do you think of my choices? What do you think I should be locked up for including? What do you think I have criminally not included on my list? You know, what would your personal top 5 be? Do leave them down below and let me know your thoughts. And remember, this is all just subjective. But yeah, thanks for watching. And until next time, cracking.